Okay, you can go, Trey.
Ready? Okay, thank you. Good evening. It is Tuesday, November 16th, 2021. This is the regular meeting of the Greenberg Central School District Board of Education. The time is now 6:38 p.m. and I'm calling the meeting to order. I ask that we all stand to do the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is to your right. The Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Opening item A3 is anticipated adjournment into executive session. I suspect that we will go into executive session and be out at our usual 8 p.m., which is when we will have our presentations and statements from the public. Is there a motion at all for us to go into executive session?
I move that we adjourn to executive session to discuss the employment history of particular persons being considered for board action this evening and at a future meeting. I second.
I heard a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's carried. Thank you. We're going into executive session. Thank you, I'm sorry for the delay. Steve, are we ready to move forward?
Sure.
Yes? Okay, great. Good evening, we are back. Thank you for the delay. The time is now 8:36 and we just got out of executive session. We're gonna get right back into our agenda. The next item on the agenda is statements from the public. Ivy, do we have anyone signed up for public comment? Thank you very much. And I have only one public comment. It's from Lorraine Cantori. Ms. Cantori, please come to the podium. Is there a mic there for her? Okay, great. Thank you.
Good evening. Talking, is it, I don't know. I can
I
project.
can't hear.
Is it on?
Hello. Okay. So, good evening, Superintendent Iverson, Board, and of course, fabulous staff over here, Leah Jackson, waiting in anticipation. I have something that I would like to mention. I'm a little concerned about equal opportunity schools. I have been an educator for 34 years. I looked at what this Seattle-based company is about, and they state, we collaborate with school districts to increase equitable enrollment in rigorous courses. Also, our partnership model is consulting, collaborating, and requires a commitment to specific measurable results. Last I checked, educators do that. They measure success, they set standards, and they can also reach out to the AP classroom on the College Board, where they can get flexible support, they can get feedback, they can also join groups to collaborate with other teachers. I have always understood that if a student wants to be in an AP class, they have to show an aptitude, they have to sustain a B or higher grade in that AP class, and they have to adapt to the rigors of the homework, the extensive reading, and the extensive classwork. Okay, I also know from experience, because my son, who's a Stony Brook student, had taken 5 classes at once, and he wasn't getting home from school till 9 o'clock at night. I think every single child, if they have it in them, their teachers motivate them, they should go for it. We do not need external interference in this district by a company that supposedly it deals with 600 schools. I'd like to see the data, because personally I believe in the staff in this district, I believe in the administration, and most certainly the new superintendent. She is providing rigor. I believe that this was a waste of $25,000, bringing strangers in to do something that we could do in-house. And then also, I was very happy to hear that there was mention of, trying to get students to read more. There are so many different aspects of reading, and I just wanted to go through that quickly. Okay. Best thing you can do is expose yourself, this could be middle school to high school, to fiction, nonfiction, including novels, short stories, poetry, and informational articles. Reading introduces students to new vocabulary, familiarizes them with grammatical rules, and forces them to consider the purposes of the writer. The construction of a story, the construction of a poem, which elicits the writer, whether it be the student or someone they are reading, to summon up vocabulary. And one of the best ways to build vocabulary is by being immersed in reading. So I know that there is a wealth of information out there. I know kids lost out on reading during COVID because it's not easy to do remote learning when there are distractions in the environment. But I do believe that students, if they, put their mind to it and they are given the opportunities with the literature and the reading material, that they can step up and make up for lost time. So I just have one question. I hope it'll be answered. As far as this group that's coming in with the AP, I would like to know which school districts in Westchester County and New York State they have served. Is there measurable data that they can present to the parents, to the teachers, and to the administration, and of course to the board? That's what I would like to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cantori. And Dr. Iverson is going to get you that information.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I have no more public speakers, so we're going to move forward in our agenda. The next agenda item is B1, presentation of reports from our independent auditor. And in our audit committee, the chair is Trustee Vallon. We went over some of this information, so now he's going to present to the full board. Do you have any comment before he begins, Trustee Vallon? Hearing none, okay, we're going to turn it over. Please introduce yourself, because the public doesn't necessarily know who you are, what you do, and then we would love to hear about the district audit.
Good evening, thank you very much. My name is Scott Olin. I'm a partner with the accounting firm of PKL O'Connor Davies. My office is in Harrison, and we do the annual external audit for this school district that is required by the State Education Department for all school districts in New York State. As was mentioned, we went over this audit report in detail with the audit committee last week, so tonight is more just a very quick overview of this external audit report. Even though we prepare this 80, 90-page document for the district, the only part that belongs to us as the auditor is the auditor's opinion, which appears after the table of contents at the beginning of the report. We've issued what's known as a clean opinion or an unmodified opinion on the district's finances, meaning that we believe these financial statements fairly present what happened in this district from a financial standpoint for the year that ended June 30, 2021. I'm going to take you to the general fund, which is the primary fund that the district operates. It's the fund that voters vote on each spring to approve their operation. But be aware that the district also operates a capital projects fund for any big capital activity going on. It operates a school lunch fund for the lunch program of the district. It operates a what's called a special aid fund for all the federal and state grants that the district receives. But again, my couple of minutes here is just focused on the general fund. The information for the general fund appears on page 54 of this audit report, with comparative information on page 55. And what I would just like to highlight from the finances for the district this year, revenues that support the district's operations were estimated at about $69 million. Most of that comes from the levy of property taxes. It also comes from the STAR money that homeowners get as a credit on their tax bills and is paid directly from the state to the school district. And then there's also regular state aid that the district gets. It's foundation aid, formula aid, excess cost aid, those kinds of things. So the district took in, as I said, its estimate was $69 million to run the district, and it took in revenues of just over $71 million, or $1.5 million more than what you estimated in the budget. So that was good news. The primary area that the district exceeded its revenue estimates was in the area of non-property taxes, which is basically the sales tax distribution from Westchester County. The county shares its sales tax with all the school districts in Westchester County. And, you know, unfortunately or fortunately during the pandemic, with most people staying put and not traveling, a lot of that money was spent on Amazon trucks and all the stuff that stayed local. So Westchester County got a lot of extra sales tax money, and then you share in that. So your revenues came in at over $2 million, where you had estimated at just $950,000. So that's the revenue side. On the expenditure side, the district, had estimated spending about $69 million. Spending only came in at $62.9 million, or about $6 million less than what you budgeted. Now, of course, the budget was crafted to expect a normal year, and all normal things that happen in a school district in a given year. And of course, that didn't really happen fully for the 2021 year, as we all know. So there were a lot of expenditure savings. Transportation costs came in almost 1.2 million less than you had spent in the previous year. And that's because a lot of the after-school activities were canceled, a lot of the bus activity was canceled. And then, so some of the salaries that relate to some of these programs were not incurred, the benefits were not incurred, and so forth. So this district is not different than any other district in Westchester County. A lot of districts experienced savings this year because of, unfortunately, for the pandemic. The other thing that helped your position in the general fund this year was that money was closed out from old capital projects. The money was sent back to the general fund this year, and then as part of your budget for the 21-22 year, you're basically sending the money back to the capital fund, but this time, as the voters approved your 21-22 budget, that money is being utilized towards what you call the Phase 1 project, which will have a budget of about $5.7 million or so to do that project. So old projects that had previously been authorized were approved by the board to transfer those funds back to general because you're using them now for a different purpose that the voters approved as part of the budget this year. So that it's basically coming back. So we kind of had to send it back to the general and then it's going back to capital. So the good news for the district is that because of the expenditure savings and because revenues came in about $1.5 million, as I said, better than you had planned, overall, you were able to increase your fund balance this year by about $8.9 million, bringing your total fund balance or your total savings account from $21 million to just over $30 million at the end of the year. If you go back to page 53, the $30 million fund balance is the difference between your assets and liabilities. The district's in good position on its assets. It has $36 million worth of assets, most of that in the form of cash, which you have in FDIC-insured banks and fully collateralized by the banks. You have about $6.2 million in liabilities at the end of the year. Most of those liabilities are payments to the retirement system. So when you come down to the $30 million fund balance, that is further broken down on page 46. Of the $30 million fund balance, almost 2/3, about $19.5 million, is restricted. It's been restricted by board action in accordance with general municipal law or education law. Your largest restriction is for tax certiorari claims. The district gets hit with very large tax refund claims. You've now set aside $10.9 million to fund refunds should they come down the road. You have money set aside for retirement system contributions for both the employees' retirement system and the teachers' retirement system to the tune of, between the two, of almost $2 million. So in case rates go up again and your costs spike, rather than having to tax the residents for that increase in cost, this is an area where you'd be able to pull money from to help pay those bills. You did have authorization during the year to increase your repair reserve. You had a $1.6 million repair reserve. You increased it by $3 million. And so you now have a total of $4.6 million in your repair reserve, of which you used $357,000 to help balance this budget in 21-22. The other big item in your restricted fund balance was you had a future capital budget reserve that last year had $2.2 million in it. You took $750,000 of that this year to do various ventilation projects in the district, obviously to also help with the COVID situation. So that left you $1.4 million in that repair reserve, and as part of this budget, you're using all of that for the Phase 1 project. You then have another $5.5 million of the $30 million fund balance is known as assigned fund balance. Some of it is to pay purchase orders, $873,000, that's probably already been paid. And then you use another $4.6 million in property tax relief. Some of that is also to fund the Phase 1 project. $2 million of that was used for property tax relief. So overall, out of the $30 million fund balance, your savings account, when we take all these pieces away, you're left with $4.5 million of fund balance. This is what's known as the unassigned fund balance. New York State law limits this amount to 4% of your budget. This amount is in excess of that amount. You're over by about $1.4 million. So you will have to develop a strategy to get back in compliance with the requirements of the New York State law. So with that, that's really a very quick synopsis of the numbers. I'd be glad to take any comments or questions.
I just want to thank you for the quick synopsis of those numbers. I mean, that's an amazing report. I'm definitely going to look further through it. Does anyone have any questions that's here? Trustees, if you can just jump in, because I can't see everyone very well, if you do have a question.
I have a question. What is the process for us now to follow to be back in compliance with the state mandate of being 4% or under?
Well, I mean, again, a lot of that's going to be a policy decision. They don't make you necessarily do that in 1 year. You might get a slap on the wrist. They're not going to really do anything. But to be back in compliance would be a policy decision. So some districts, if they're over, they have a plan where they decide, they're going to use it for capital purposes. You would kind of want to use it for a one-off purpose. You wouldn't want to use it for recurring operational expenses, because once you give that back for operational expenses, then it's not there the following year, and then you have a budget shortfall. So, if you have one-shot things to use it for, that would probably, be best, but I'm sure, the business office and the board will obviously go through, what is the best use of those excess funds.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments or questions?
Sure. On the agenda item that we're passing, the committee, I believe, has gone over this audit. I think they went over the separate document that accompanies it, but I don't think we went over the extra classroom activity funds. Am I correct about that?
I think you might be. So there are actually several parts to this audit. The financial statement that we just went through is one part. What also happens as part of this audit is the fact that, I gotta find my version. The other thing that we also do as part of this audit is, as you said, the extra classroom activities. These are the extracurricular funds of the district, and there's a separate report issued for that. The district started in the various clubs. So, for example, the various class clubs, class of 21, class of 22, etc., music theater, National Honor Society. Those clubs started the year with about $29,000 overall in them. This year there were ins and outs that brought the total to about $34,000. Obviously, some of these numbers were lower than previous years, because obviously some of the extracurricular stuff was curtailed this year, as a result of the pandemic. But we do issue a separate report which you're in possession of. You do have to file that also with New York State, which I believe has been done. So that's the extra classroom report. Another thing that is part of the audit also, that's included in the document we just went through, is because this district receives over $750,000 a year in federal aid, you're required to have what's called a single audit or a federal compliance audit, where based on the programs that you got federal funding under, we have to test certain of those programs for compliance to make sure that you spend the funds the way the feds want you to spend the funds. And so that's true for your Title I programs, your IDEA, those kinds of programs, but also this school district and others started receiving the federal stimulus money from the CARES Act or the CRISA Act and the ARPA funds and those kinds of things. And those are planned to be spent over the next, 2 to 3 years, and we will have to, take a look at those. The guidelines are still being, sent out by the feds on those programs, because they're new.
And one other thing, I believe there were some minor issues with grants and the grants process, and there are actions that we're going to take to correct those and increase, make sure that we have our processes documented and standardized for keeping up with the grants. Do you have anything you want to go over on that?
No, so a couple of the findings that we did, as you say, relate to the federal grants, because as we go through and audit them, if something, sticks out to us that doesn't comply with what the federal regulations say, we're required to report that. We've reported that in what we call this management letter or communication, to the board. That also has to get filed with the state. But also this information, because as I said, you have, over $750,000 in federal aid, there's also a report, an electronic report, that is submitted to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse. That is in process right now, but because we've had findings related to those federal programs regarding certain reporting, certain allowed and unallowed activities, and certain rules regarding procurement of certain things, we are going to be reporting those to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse. The district is required to submit a response and corrective action plan specific to those items. That also has to get uploaded to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse. So we know that the business office is working on a corrective action plan related to those. Once we get that, we will begin the upload process to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse. They get the audit report, they get the compliance audit, and they get your corrective action plan.
And where are we in terms of submission schedule relative to where we should be?
We basically have 30 days after this was issued, which was basically about a week ago. So we still have about 3 weeks or so to get that issued. So once I get the corrective action plan, we are all ready to go with the upload. I just got to press a button.
Great,
So
thank
we're all
you.
set for now. Yeah.
So, Ms. Roman, you guys are working on that, right?
Yes, we are.
Awesome. Okay, and any other questions from trustees? No? I will ask a question that I asked in our audit committee, that I was also asked today by a community member that called me earlier, seeing our agenda. Do we need to do a specific audit related to the fact that we changed over our whole administration, including the business office, the superintendent, the curriculum? Do we need to do a special audit because we changed over leadership?
That's, first off, that would obviously be a board decision. We don't think it's necessary because, as part of the audit, we did a lot of interviews, a lot of discussions, with folks. We, each year we re-review all the processes that happen, in the business office, whether it's, paying of bills, through the claims paying process, the paying of payroll, those are your 2 big ones, the receiving of monies that come in. We review those each year, and, none of those processes really, change. There might have been some different folks doing it, but the processes remain the same. In addition to our audit, as the external auditor, you also have an internal auditor that you task with doing certain projects each year, and you also have a claims auditor that reviews basically all the payments that are non-payroll related. So between those 3, and then sometimes the state will come down and, and bug you themselves. So, between the 3 sets of auditors, school districts are probably the most audited governmental entity in New York State, as compared to towns and cities and counties and so on.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
Any other questions? We're going to have our Leah Johnson presentation next. No? Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And we will continue to see you soon. And next on our agenda is our presentations and reports, section B2 of Lee F. Jackson Elementary School. I see the principal, Patricia Sloan. Stepping out here.
I wish I didn't have to wear this mask so you could see the big smile on my face that we're here in person. This is a wonderful way of reintroducing normal world. So good evening. Good evening, Board President, Mayors, Superintendent Dr. Iverson, Board Trustees, Central Office Leadership. It is always a pleasure to have you here at the Lee F. Jackson School. I am Patricia Simone, the proud principal of Lee F. Jackson, this beautiful children's museum. With me tonight, I have, I'm very honored to introduce some of the fabulous Lee F. Jackson teachers. Okay. Ooh. Okay. So with me tonight, I have Kathy Holmes, kindergarten teacher. I have Dawn Weiss with us, art teacher. Valerie Williams, which is our International Baccalaureate coordinator and also reading library teacher. Christine Lutz, music teacher. Louis Ayala, our physical education teacher. Teacher Sean Mr. Rand is our world language Mandarin teacher. And I just want to also acknowledge two of the staff that are here tonight to support their fabulous colleagues. Okay, I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Holmes.
Good evening, everyone. So, I want to give you a glimpse into the daily schedule of the student here at Lee F. Jackson. And our screen has the many different things, the many different academics that we have here at Lee F. Jackson. One thing that we understand here at Lee F. Jackson is the fact that our students are coming in and have come in the midst of a pandemic, and they are coming in from being at home for the past almost 2 years, 1.5 years. So they have been at home with their caretaker that I can imagine has held them a little bit tighter because of the pandemic and everything that has been going on. So them coming into us, it's almost as if they are looking to us for that caretaking as well. And so here at Lee F. Jackson, we welcome them with open arms. Our staff are at the bus stop, at the buses, and they are helping to get them off the buses when they come in. They're greeted by Mr. John and the other staff that help them to walk down the halls. And then they end up at the classrooms with the teachers who are there to welcome them in. And we have seen how the pandemic has had an effect on the students' emotional lives, on their emotional skills, on everything that they expect. And we here at Lee F. Jackson, we are prepared, and we have been helping them to understand what they're feeling and how they're feeling, and helping them to talk through those things. So everything that's on the slide, we go through, not in this certain order, not in this specific order, but we go through this to help them not only with their social emotional learning, but of course the reason, another reason why they're here is for their academics. So they come in, they have breakfast in the classroom, provided by the district. It's a district-wide free breakfast program. As they are settling in, then we go into our morning meeting where we review our calendar, we review the months of the year and the days of the week. And our social emotional learning is woven all throughout our day and also included in our morning meeting. We have our ELA block, which includes our Foundations program, which is a systematic multi-sensory program. We have our Haggerty program, which is our phonemic awareness. And we also have Fountas and Pinnell as part of the ELA block, where it is our multi-text approach, where it includes interactive read aloud, shared reading, guided reading that helps the teachers to do small group instruction, while the other students are engaged in daily 5 activities, independent activities, and also with their iReady doing their reading. We also have our TWR, the Writing Revolution, which is our writing program that is not just one specific block, but it is also woven into all of the content areas. We have our math program, our Math in Focus, which after whole group instruction, teachers can work with small groups with the students who can use that extra help or the extra few minutes, while the other students work in centers during the daily 3 and also with the iReady math. Of course, the students have lunch and have recess. At some point in the day, they also do have snack. And then our science and social studies curriculum includes the IB units of inquiry. And then, of course, every day they have 1 or 2 of the special school subjects, the art, library, Mandarin, music, gym. And then we also have STEAM centers at some point in the day for them to, it's almost like they are free time, but it's not free time. They are building, they are thinking, they are collaborating in the classroom. So this is a small glimpse. There's a lot that goes on in the classroom, but this is just a snippet of what we do here at William Jackson. Yes?
Could you tell me about the Math Daily 3?
So the Math Daily 3 is almost like the, it works like the Daily 5. In the Daily 3, after the whole group instruction, the teacher allows the students to break into centers, and at one center the student may be working on numbers and maybe a word problem or a word sentence. In another group, they're working on another skill, while the teacher also works with a small group with that extra instruction.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I want to hear a little bit more about what you guys are doing around STEAM, like about the kids interacting with technology and art.
Well, yes, they of course work with our manipulatives within the classroom, and then we have different websites that we have exposed them to help them build those skills around STEAM. Thank you. And then we have our communication with the parents, because as you know, it's very important for us to stay in communication with parents. So between the school and the parents, we have our school messenger, which sends out calls, texts, and emails. We send out flyers. The teachers have an app called Remind, which is a basic texting service between the teachers and the parents that they can quickly communicate. Periodically, teachers send out newsletters to inform parents of what's going on in the classroom. Teachers also send out emails, respond to emails. We, of course, have phone calls as well. And then we have our parent-teacher conferences, which are twice a year. And at this time, I will turn it over to Ms. Valerie.
Okay, so the theme in Dr. Iverson's 100-day plan is recover, rebuild, renew, and reimagine. So how are we at the Leah Jackson School supporting this theme? The school focus at Leo Jackson, as you heard Ms. Holmes, we have a full program for the students, a full academic program. But our focus right now in the month of November is really based on the social and emotional learning of the child. In addition, as it's indicated on this slide, research shows that the social and emotional components are really enhanced in the classroom to build that environment of learning and to really welcome the child into the classroom. In addition to having that environment in the classroom, Leo Jackson SEL is a school-wide culture. Young children undergo significant emotional development. The skills that they are learning at this young age is paving the way for them to understand themselves, build friendships, interact with others, and it's so important to have that school-wide culture for our children. So as Ms. Holmes mentioned, we were, the past year and a half have been very unprecedented times for education and the world. We were forced to close, to have remote, to have hybrid, close for quarantine. So this really affects a child who is 4, 5, or 6 years old. When this first experience here at the early childhood program or the Leo Jackson School, a lot of them have not been able to experience it. So here in the month of November, when in a typical year, they're eager, ready to learn, they've had their routines in place. We're still trying to develop that whole child to have those routines. The next one, okay. So throughout this challenging times, what we did was every Friday we would have our SEL. It was Feel Good Friday. And the special areas really devoted most of their time to develop those activities in SEL, so the classroom teachers were able to spend that time to develop the lessons for the hybrid and the remote learning. And they were really devoted and dedicated to support the whole child. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to our IB coordinator, Ms. Valerie Williams.
Thank you, Ms. Simone. And good evening, Greenberg Central School District family. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. And it all starts with our mission. The mission of Leo Jackson School is to provide appropriate environments and experiences which meet the needs of young children, because we really love our children. And our children are so strong and they're so powerful. Our approach to learning is inquiry-based. They have great ideas and they have many questions, and builds a strong foundation for academic and social skills necessary for success in a diverse world. In our presentation this evening, we're focusing on social emotional learning, which is a pathway to academic success. We hope to develop active, compassionate, and public citizens with a lifelong love of learning. SEL is the process through which all young people and adults acquire and apply the knowledge and skills that are embodied by the IB learner profiles. And it helps them to develop healthy identities, manage their emotions, and achieve personal and collective goals. We do a great deal of kid watching here at Leah Jackson School. And we praise our children for all of the wonderful things that they do. And being an educator, being a parent, or just knowing children, when you praise them for something, that is what they aspire to do, and they do it with excellence. So, for example, self-management skills. When we say to them, I like the way you're walking on your circles and you're keeping yourself safe and everybody else safe, guess what? They do it all the time. Responsible decision-making. When we say, thank you for keeping yourself safe and wearing your mask. They wear their mask, and they're keeping themselves safe and everybody else safe during the pandemic. Social awareness. I like the way you help your friend. Somebody drops something, they'll help them pick it up. Or if they notice that you did not mention their name, they'll say, oh, you didn't mention his name. So, oh, thank you for reminding me, because I want everybody to be included. And relationship skills. Praise them for being so kind. And our children are so kind. They're the kindest people that I know. And also self-awareness, being reflective, and asking them how do they feel. We have mood sticks, you know, where it's happy on one side and sad on another side. So you ask the whole class to show what makes you happy. Do you like pizza? And you see some people, they have their happy stick, but some have the sad stick, which I was surprised to see. But you might find out, oh, they're allergic to cheese, so that's why they're not so happy about it. And that's something that we talk about, like we have similarities and differences, and we have different needs. So just asking them how they feel and acknowledging how they feel. Oh. And SEL and IB. We provide a safe and developmentally rich environment here at Leah Jackson School. We know that learning starts at home, and during the pandemic, we had a wonderful opportunity to really partner with parents, families, and caregivers, like we never did before. And I think we have to keep those partnerships going. I have an example where I was doing an IB unit about weights, and I asked a student to do a demonstration, and everybody was really excited about what they saw. And then I saw the mother, she came in and she gave additional materials for the demonstration. So it was the whole family was together participating with the students in the classroom. SEL starts at the very beginning here at Leah Jackson School. The special area teachers, we greet the students as they come off of the bus and as they go through the building. And also, SEL is embodied in our IB units of inquiry, which was written by our staff here at Leah Jackson School. And SEL in the library. We develop critical skills, and as a group, children and adults, we take care of ourselves and others. We all share our ideas and listen to each other. We have fun while we inquire and learn, and we exemplify the IB learner profile. We're an IB school. Thank you. And now,
hello?
Yes, oh, yes.
Sure. Can you give me an example of, I guess maybe of SEL in a unit of inquiry?
of SEL, social emotional learning,
Yes.
and a unit inquiry. We're doing our IB unit number 2 right now, and we're alike and we're different. So I mentioned the mood stick that we had with one side is happy, one side is sad. So that's one thing that we do, and we play a little game. Oh, I got a new Nintendo Switch. Show me your face, and it's a happy face. And I was surprised. I thought everybody was going to be happy, but one student was not happy about that and explained why they weren't happy. And then also, social emotional learning. We're complex people, and our kids are complex as well. So we have the emotions charts with the different emotions: happy, sad, bored, scared, all of those things. So the children, they explain all of those emotions. And then when they're asked to show how they feel about something, they'll indicate which emotions that show how they feel. And usually it's like 2 or 3 different things. So they explain the full range of their feelings. So it's just not like happy, sad, mad. So they really explain how they're feeling.
The full range of emotions. Okay.
Yes.
Very good, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, good evening. My name is Mrs. Weiss, and I'm the K-3 art teacher here at Leo Jackson and Highview. I've been teaching in Greenberg for 29 years, and I am also a student who went through this district. A love of art was instilled in me 45 years ago in these classrooms. And I remember that every time I go into a classroom. That love goes with me, and I treat the children just like I was treated. And I treat them as my own children. So let me give you a peek into what art looks like here. First and foremost, I teach the ABCs of art. I teach the children how to use colors, values, line, shape, texture, form, and space. That is the base of every lesson that we start with. And then beyond that, creativity and a growth mindset is always encouraged and supported. I support ELA through stories. IB is used to connect themes that are taught throughout the school. Local artists are brought in to work with the students. Music is a big thing in my classroom. I always try to create a very calm atmosphere, especially this year. I have many students who look forward to just hearing that calm music while we are working. And while we were remote, I had many parents who were looking forward to my lesson because they would join in and tell me how therapeutic it was for them. I also use the smart board, Google Classroom, and many videos to introduce different concepts. Portfolios are kept so progress can be monitored. I also have them do a self-portrait in September, and then we do another one in May or June, and we compare them. And that's their first lesson in seeing where they started and where they are growing and how they are changing. And they're always shocked, especially right now. I see a lot of students who are struggling with learning how to draw their shapes and cutting and gluing. So we are working on that this year. This is actually the first time that I've had some students come in and don't know how to hold a pair of scissors, don't know how to open the glue. So we're working on that. Next slide, please. SEL equals art. Art is, it's everything. It's everything to these children. It's everything to me. So when I walk in, I hear, yay, here we go. And they can't wait to get started. So I usually will start with a presentation for 5 minutes or so. I'll show them a little video or a story, and we get the mood going. And then we go to work time, and that's where we practice our drawing and our painting and our cutting. We make collages, and we make a mess, and then we clean it up. But we do make a mess. And then we just engage in lots of different activities and discussions. And many times feelings come out. Sometimes they miss their mom. Sometimes they just want to be by themselves. And all of that is allowed in my classroom. I sometimes give them the space to go and work, off in the corner if they want to, and they come back and they're very happy. Sometimes they want to be the star of the show and they want to share their work with everybody. So we go the full gamut of emotions, and then we take our work and we keep it, and they can't wait to bring it home. Halfway through the year, we'll send some work home. At the end of the year, when those portraits go home, oftentimes I'll get many parents who, say, wow, because they're starting out in September with a little circle and 2 little lines coming out of the body, and then at the end of the year, you get full portraits, and you get details and background. And I continue this through 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade. And whenever I have a student who says, oh, I made a mistake, my famous saying is make it a happy one. Let's turn it into something new. And we do. And I have students that start in kindergarten, and by 3rd grade they turn to their friends and they go, make it a happy mistake. And everybody's happy at the end. Thank you very much.
One question. You said you bring in artists from outside sometimes?
Yeah.
Where do you get your artists? Where do you recruit them from? And what, is it like a show and tell? What do they do when they come in?
That's a great question. And Ms. Simone usually helps to facilitate that. In the past, we've had Arts Westchester come in, and they do murals, sometimes different work in the classroom with individuals, and then go outside and do group projects.
Is there any all related to IB units?
That's correct. Yeah, they're all related to the IB units, and we do, 1 or 2 usually throughout the year, depending on finances as well.
Thank you.
Hey, good evening, everybody. My name is Ms. Lutz. I teach music here at Leah Jackson School. I know I taught some of your children. So in music, we do singing, we do dancing, we are playing instruments, we're exploring multicultural music. And really in music, we are building a sense of community in the music classroom. We are integrating SEL by recognizing the feelings of them, not only themselves, but together as a class and a group, and then ultimately as a school. So the way that I've accommodated music this year is I've individually bagged instruments for every single child. So they're not missing out on rhythm sticks, shakers, drums, and each child has their own bag, and we're able to make music together, and they're very excited about that. Some of the different songs we're singing this year addresses the issues that they are facing. We are singing songs about moving forward, and what does that mean, and how does that look like now? And we have discussions about that. And we also, one of the very first songs we learned this year is about being together again. How does that look? How do we feel? We're all back together in the same school. Moving forward, we're not looking behind us at last year. We're moving on to a great new school year this year. Next slide, please. Music and SEL, they really go hand in hand. And most importantly, we are all, in all areas, we are promoting these social, emotional skills that will stick with them for their entire lives. Whether it's music, art, gym, library, physical education, they will remember it with the skills that they were taught. Next slide, please. So music is taught in the classroom, but we are also utilizing the outdoor space as well. We have a lot of space that we can use to spread the children out. They can take the mass break, they're spread out 6 feet apart, and they're really enjoying that break. Also, the most exciting part is we are bringing back the sharing assemblies. So we're going to have the kindergarten and 1st grade, we're going to rotate every month. So we're going to be, the classroom teacher will send out a link to a Google Meet link to the parents. So it will be streamed live and the parents can watch their children sing again. So it's very exciting. So we're very excited to bring that back. So that will be rotated every month, 1 kindergarten and 1 1st grade class until the end of the year. Okay, thank you. Turn it over to Mr. Ayala.
Could you give a couple of examples of say, some vocal music? I don't want you to sing, I just, what are the songs?
Together again. I wish I had that music on me. Well, one of the songs that they're just so excited about is Moving Forward, and I wish I had that clip, because it's about looking up, looking on, moving forward to every day that dawns. And we are here every single day, and we are moving forward with them. It's a new reality for us. And we've got another part is about having big dreams and how we're excited and we're reaching for the stars and we're reaching our goals. So we have conversations about that. We say, what do you want to be when you grow up? We say, what are your goals? What does this new reality look like? So, without singing.
Thank you. Thank you. Just wanted to get down to brass tacks. It's good.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mr. Ayala, and I teach physical education here at Leo Jackson. So I want to talk a little bit about how I incorporate SEL to my classes. I want to start off with our focus, which is physical education will provide the students with the skills, the knowledge, and the motivation to become lifelong learners and movers, healthy individuals as well. And those skills include social and emotional skills. The students in physical education will be participating in activities that will be focusing on skills, fitness, health, and SEL in both kindergarten and first grade. So now I want to get into how I incorporate social emotional learning in physical education. And one of the things I do here is a lot of team building activities, which encourages cooperation and decision-making skills with groups of partners. Sportsmanship, which I encourage a lot in most of the activities that we do. When we do sports, it encourages students to show respect, kindness, and fair plays to others during games or activities. I also incorporate this in many of the games, and I tell them that it's important to use that not only in school, but also when they participate in extracurricular activities or sports outside of school. We also practice mindfulness and coping skills while doing yoga. So we have a yoga unit here, which teaches them breathing techniques, helps the students relax, improve focus, and self-esteem. There's sometimes where students, it doesn't matter the activity that we're doing, sometimes they become frustrated. And I notice this, and sometimes we take breathing breaks. We learn these breathing techniques in the yoga unit, but we use them throughout the whole school year. So there's times where you need to stop, take a break, especially now when we're in the gym. We have some mass breaks, we count to 10, and we give them the time to relax using these breathing techniques. We also have, I also teach a little bit of health in physical education. One of those lessons is about emotions. We talk about different emotions, when they feel these different emotions, and sometimes they give examples of when they use these emotions or feel these emotions. And lastly, encouraging positive self-talk and feedback when they are participating in stations or in group work. I encourage a lot of feedback between partners or groups. Thank you.
Hi, could you give an example or two of a game that teaches social coping skills?
Social coping skills. Okay, so there's a game in the beginning of the year that I play. It's a friendship game. We always talk about, we do our warm-up, which is either running, skipping. We'll use music as well, and they'll do the skipping. For example, they'll do skipping, and it's called the friendship game because at the end, when the music stops, I shout out a number, and they have to find that number of people, and they have to create a group and talk amongst each other, and I usually give them a conversation to talk about, and then we'll switch it up. I'll switch the numbers, and I tell them that they have to find a new group of students so they can all share different
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board of Education, Dr. Harrison, Dr. Macaluso, and Greenberg Central School District. My name is Ran Shan. I'm the IB World Language teacher here at Leo Jackson. Our IB World Language Mandarin is featured by a student-centered curriculum with meaningful activity and project-based learning, providing students with listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills to promote practical use of language. In terms of the social-emotional learning here in our world language class, our students develop their motor skills through handwriting. During our daily routine, the student practice writing from strokes, radicals, singles, words to sentences. Besides, our students are encouraged to identify and express their emotion. Students can express multiple mental states in oral and written ways in Mandarin. Other than hands-on activities, our students have a lot of whole body activity in world language class, including Asian yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, Kung Fu, ice exercise, and we even have touch-free version during the pandemics when they are related to our IB curriculum. Thank you, everyone.
What is Qigong?
Oh, Qigong is one of the dynamic meditation. Actually, last school year we have the Good Friday, and we district-wise we have the expert teaching us the variety of the meditation. And the Qigong is one example of the dynamic meditation. It's kind of like Tai Chi, but it's a little different. And if you watch the movie Hua Mulan, and they emphasize the Qi, which is the energy of the body. And our students really enjoy that because they can relax and feel their energy. And thank you.
They feel your energy. All right, thank you.
So thank you very much, Leo Jackson teachers. As you heard and saw how the special area, in addition to the classroom teachers, are addressing the SEL. If this was June, I would be having a different kind of a presentation. We would be talking about the academics and then where we started in September and where we are in June. But we are, right now, we have to develop the whole child. And by building their social and emotional skills, giving them that confidence, and letting them just be who they are. So thank you, and I hope to come back in June so I can tell you all of the great things that we've accomplished where the students are reading and writing and they want to be here all day. So thank you again.
Thank you, Ms. Simone, and the entire Leo Jackson staff. I know you've worked all day and you have to go home and work again tomorrow with our youngest of students. So we really appreciate your time and your patience because we did take a little longer to come out of exec session today. Are there any questions for, I see Ms. Washington?
So first and foremost, thank you so much, Principal Simone and staff members. As a Board of Education, I would just like us to recognize not only do we need social emotional learning for our students, but we need to recognize our teachers and administrators because we're all coming back from a pandemic, coming into the classroom, and there is something called teacher burnout. And if the Board of Education district can really recognize the staff members and try to find some way that they can also identify what they're going through, they can make them better teachers and staff members and administrators. So I want to recognize all the effort, the commitment, and the dedication, all the times you wanted to cry in the classroom, the fears that you had, and I want to say thank you, but I would like us to recognize teacher burnout, staff burnout, administration burnout. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Washington. Are there any other trustees that have any questions, comments, feedback? No, I did have one question. I heard, I think it was Ms. Weiss talk about that this is the first year that you saw certain students performing differently, I guess, because they were home for so long with their caregivers. And I assume that in all the classes, in all subjects, you guys have seen some different, whether it be behaviors, level of entry performance, and I'm just wondering how, any one of you can actually answer this, but how do you reconcile that? Because you do have to, I guess, get through a certain level of curriculum, you have a benchmark that you're trying to get to, right? And I guess if you're dealing with a child that comes in at a different level now, or multiple children really that are coming in at different levels, how are you guys working to get them to those benchmarks that have not really changed, right? Those expectations.
Well, I could just speak for myself.
Can I ask you to get the mic only because the people at home might not be able to hear you? We can hear you right here, but I don't think the camera will pick up. Thank
Well,
you.
in art, every lesson that we do, there's always time to practice, there's always time to fail, there's always time to succeed. And if we have to go back and do it a second time, it's okay. And we'll just do it a little bit different the next time. Sometimes I have students work together, of course with barriers. And sometimes we accept that maybe right now is not the time where you're going to excel at something, but we'll keep practicing throughout the year. And that's one of the reasons why I keep the portfolio, because they really do see the growth from where they were to where they end up each year. And like I said, I do that K through 3, so they look forward to it. They say, oh, I kept my self-portraits from last year, and I can't believe the difference from kindergarten to 3rd grade, because I do have students that keep all of their work. And that's really how it works in art. We just always keep working at it. And it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to change it, and it's encouraged. Because I'll be honest with you, most creative things come out of mistakes. And then they're happy, I'm happy, everybody's happy at that point.
Thank you so much, Ms. Weiss. Can I see Ms. Williams? Someone else have a question?
Along those same lines, have children gotten strangely better at things here and there that they weren't as good at in previous classes? Is there anything that all that time at home and so forth, one skill that's really amazing or that stands out?
Yes, I would say they're resilient and they bounce back quicker. They really do. And, sorry. I would say a lot of times many caregivers, well-intentioned, were helping the students and kind of cutting it for them and handing it to them instead of letting the students, actually cut. So we're just going to keep practicing, and it's okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. When we had to go virtual, I was really concerned about, how we were going to teach the kids virtually. And my concern was I wanted everybody to be recognized and seen. At the beginning of each session, and I do that now, I just sing us all in. So it goes like this. Okay. Hello, Johnny. Hello, Katie. Hello, Hassan. I'm glad you're here today. And I sing the song, and I ask them to wave and smile at me. So that's my way of taking attendance, and also to know who's there. And the students say, oh, you didn't mention Jamie's name. And I said, okay, hello, Jamie, I'm glad you're here today. I did mention Jamie, but they're listening to see who I mention, who I don't mention, and they're looking out for each other. So that is one thing. And then another concern I had was how to get kids to wear the mask. And I know that for myself and for anybody, sometimes if you're doing something for yourself, you won't do it. But if you think that you're doing it for somebody else, then you will. So, oh, thank you. Why are you wearing a mask? I would ask everybody, why are you wearing the mask? Say, because of the coronavirus. And some kids had a lot of scientific information. And some of them were like, oh, I don't want to get sick. I'm keeping other people safe. I'm keeping my family safe. So just really doing that check-in and make sure that I speak to everybody every session. And sometimes kids I just call on everybody. So they said, I didn't raise my hand. I said, oh, that's okay. I still want to hear from you. And then also, you know, when kids were, didn't have the answer, they were unsure how to answer, that was an opportunity to model how to answer a question. So then I would go away from them, ask a few other students, and then go back and ask them a question, and they were able to answer. And then sometimes students might not be able to answer a question, they don't have the information, but what happens, they will come back to you and they will give you more information. And you can see, like through the progression of lessons, how their answers become more detailed. And also that's what they're drawing. And they say, oh, I added the details. Oh, I like the way that you drew the setting. And then they'll show you all the details that they drew, that they drew, or the details that they added to their sentences and to their stories. So really just talking to the kids and praising them for specific things, and then they just come back and they'll just naturally show the progress. So I guess through the pandemic, I made sure that I speak to everybody because I was concerned, I wouldn't be able to see everybody because how is this computer camera thing working? I wasn't sure. But I would see their names, on my computer screen, and I made sure that I asked each person who was on the computer screen a question. And if they didn't have the answer, I, helped them to answer the question.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you so much for your presentation, Lee F. Jackson family. We really Okay, we're going to move forward in our agenda. We are now at presentations or reports B3. Are there any committee reports to be had for the Board of Ed? Yes? Trustee Vallon?
I'll keep this brief. First, I want to announce that on Thursday at 6 p.m. there is a Governance and Policy Committee meeting. It will be viewable on YouTube. I'd also like to state that, as we saw earlier tonight, there was an audit committee meeting. We went into the report that we saw tonight in more detail. I'd just like to confirm something that was mentioned by one of the board members. The school district will need to approve the corrective action plan that will be filed with the federal government, and we do anticipate that we will be approving that plan at the December 7th meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Vallon. Are there any other reports? Trustee Warner.
Not a report, but the next meeting of the Finance and Facilities Committee is tomorrow night, Wednesday, 11/17/21 at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom. Link will be provided on the district website. We'll probably have a bit of an update on our energy performance contract. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Warner. Are there any other updates from? Yes, Trustee Pineda.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to provide the Safety and Technology Committee meeting minutes for November 9th, 2021. The meeting was called to order at 6:02 p.m. In attendance, Neil Ragudio, Carlos Ramirez, Chris Fallon, Laser Alert, David Warner, Ashley Pineda, and Maria Abitabo. On the agenda, a bunch of follow-ups. The first one was the committee charge status having been formally approved by the BOE at the November 2nd meeting. We also had a status of technology report provided by Mr. Carlos Ramirez. He talked about digital equity charge by the New York State Education Department, as well as the fact that all students currently have a device, and a survey was being sent home in the future, which is now the past. The survey has already gone to the parents, as requested by New York State Education Department. He also gave us an update on the status of the Chromebook replacement devices. The department gave us a brief presentation on the fact that currently devices are being broken faster than we're able to fix them. As an example, the 27 out of 69 devices that were sent to be repaired could not be repaired and basically were permanently destroyed. The department updated us on how they're trying to look towards the committee as well as the board and the administration in the future as to strategies on how we could address accountability for those devices, for the repair of the devices, because there is a cost to the devices. So we had a brief conversation on that. The long and short of it is we're going to think about it as a committee, and during our next meeting we hope to come prepared to talk about strategies we can use and to determine what a recommendation could be to the Board of Education to how to consider approach that. We also had an update on the changes we had discussed during our previous committee meeting on the device replacement plan. So just to ensure we're all on the same page, there are currently approximately 1,600 devices in a replacement plan that occur every 3 years on the device level. That's 33% replacement every budget season. However, our replacement cycle has increased recently because of the increased damage to the devices. But to clarify, the district is working on a 5-year replacement plan for network appliances and servers or infrastructure, but we're still trying to maintain the 3 years for the endpoint devices, which is the Chromebooks, all those pieces that are individual. Also, there was an observation that the smart boards that we have deployed to the classrooms are being currently, their life is being shortened by the life of the bulbs, the lamps. So we're looking into how we could optimize and extend the life of those devices by taking advantage of energy saving features, such as if no one's in the classroom, time delays, etc., stuff like that. We also had a conversation following up on our previous meeting on the student GCSD email accounts and how some information wasn't necessarily getting to students, particularly to College Board. Long and short there, it was looked into. There are some security considerations with having our students receive email directly from external parties. With that said, there's going to be ongoing research into the actual specific use case we're talking about to see if a solution can be identified while still maintaining the security of our environment. We also touched on the beginning of year parent packet. Very high level, just talking about how that packet could be distributed electronically. Some of the things it could contain are emergency contact information, parent portal, home access information, such as instructions on how enrollment can happen, how you could update your demographics for your child, such as phone numbers, contact information, and the board, the Safety and Technology Committee actually came out with a recommendation to the board that we recommend that this topic be taken up by the CEC committee so that they could further, really flesh out details in coordination with the administration. Obviously, administration would own the packet, but just considering communication between the school district and the incoming students' parents, just to ease that communication and that process. From there, we moved on to discussing committee day conflicts. We had 2 conflicts that we had already become aware of. We have now officially made December 14th our next committee meeting date, and we have rescheduled our March 9th meeting to March 30th. Ivy, I will be sending you that via email so we can update the notice, please. Also, in terms of communication for changes to school hours or foul weather events, especially buses, we had talked about that during our last committee report. We had a brief conversation on what the next steps there should be. As a committee, we think we should consider performing a test run of the alert to parents and somehow come up with a process to indicate to the parents, hey, this is a test. We want to do this before an actual event happens. And then the part of the conversation was, okay, well, then maybe after we send the test, the superintendent could consider sending out a district-wide email saying, hey, a test has gone out. If you did not receive the test, you need to update your contact information before a weather event happens. So Superintendent Dr. Iverson, we look to you for that. So that was one of the things we talked about there. And then there was also a brief conversation on ensuring that in that communication that would go out, highlighting for the parents that they could update their information in the parent portal so that it doesn't just have to go through the registrar necessarily. We also asked for an update on the Infinite Campus research that was being performed. And that was, as a reminder for everyone, Infinite Campus is another option for basically a student information systems software product. And there were some advantages potentially to that product. The technology department is still looking into that, and they will come back to the committee with their report when they have a moment. We then discussed the LTE, or in other words, cellular service currently not being sufficient in some of our school buildings. So for example, Verizon, the signal is very low depending on where you are on campus, and that happens with some of the other carriers. So the requests there have been, hey, we should probably consider putting together a letter and sending it to the Public Service Commission on the behalf of the school district requesting and saying, hey, our parents, our students, our taxpayers are inquiring if you can increase your service on our campus. Obviously, we can't mandate that, but we could inquire about it. And my understanding is a letter was being drafted and being sent to our superintendent for signature and consideration. The other thing that came out as the committee was talking through was the idea that perhaps once that letter is approved and sent on behalf of the school district, perhaps the CEC would consider reaching out to other community-based organizations to see if they also would, I guess, co-sign the letter in general, right? Because this isn't just a Greenberg Central School District carrier connectivity issue, it's the whole community, right? So maybe there would be other organizations that would be willing to also send something out on their own behalf to the Public Service Commission, just to increase a little bit of visibility to that issue. From there on, we went on to parent-teacher conferences and asking about if there was any feedback on the technology or the accessibility of those conferences. We had a brief conversation on the fact that signup.com had been, for the most part, kind of standardized as the scheduling platform for this latest round. We heard that, there hasn't been much feedback, at least at the time of this meeting, not much feedback had occurred yet. We also talked a little bit on the different video meeting platforms being used by the different teachers, and if that unfortunately currently causes more confusion, right? Because some meetings might be through Google Meet, some meetings might be through Zoom. So one of the things for consideration was perhaps in the future, the administration could consider it and try to see if we should standardize on one platform in particular for parent-teacher conferences. Maybe that would help eliminate some of the confusion. Specifically, during that conversation, Zoom is mentioned a few times, specifically because there is a breakout room feature that could be used, where the idea that was tossed around during the committee was perhaps the parents could receive a single Zoom meeting link that would be, I guess the main link. They would sign on, they would be in the parent-teacher conference for the school, and then breakout rooms could be set up so that instead of parents joining from one meeting link to another meeting link and different meeting IDs, they could literally be thrown into different breakout rooms to talk individually with the teachers without all the confusion. So that was an idea that was talked about. We did have one of our trustees on that committee volunteer to be a guinea pig next year to test out the back to school night platform. Trustee Valen was courageous enough to do that if we want to go that route. And that was the extent of the parent-teacher conference meetings conversation. From there on, we talked very high level about student pedestrian safety when walking home from Williams Middle High School during dark hours now, especially in the winter. We didn't talk much about that because some of our safety liaisons were not present during the meeting. They had other commitments, so that was the extent of the conversation. And then we went into closed session to talk about safety and security related matters. With that said, conversations were about security cameras and overall safety. And with that said, we adjourned the meeting at 8:25 p.m. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pineda. Are there any trustees that have any questions or comments related to his report?
I have a question. Okay, so you gave a date and you said something about committee meeting December 14th. Isn't that the same date as in go ahead.
Yes, so So you are correct. December 14th is the same date as the December special election that we're proposing to the taxpayers to vote on. With that said, there were some scheduling issues with obviously December, things get really tight. And in conversations amongst the committee, we realized that the committee members don't necessarily perform a vital role during that vote itself. So we figured it made more sense to proceed with that meeting on the 14th rather than cancel it for the month of December. And anybody that is part of that committee on the administration side that had a conflict or could not make it would just be excused for that meeting and proceed and do what they need to do to make sure the election continues to happen. But we wanted to at least still move forward with that meeting. So that was the compromise we struck for that date.
Okay. I'm sorry?
Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you for the clarity. And number two, in reference to the parent-teacher conferences, it was stated that it was much more, oh yeah, my battery's down. Basically, it was easier for the parents to get in. So whatever was taking place, Dr. Iverson, thank you, because the transition, the battery's down. The transition was smoother. Okay.
Thank you for noting that we spent a lot of time on that.
Okay, are there any other trustees?
I would just quickly invite the community out to our November 22nd, which is next Monday, Community Engagement and Communications Committee. We look forward to seeing you folks there.
Okay, are there any questions about security? I did have one more, I did have a comment about the security feedback. So I just wanted to just publicly talk about the fact that I observed myself and tried to share the photo with you guys of coyotes on our campus. So we are woodlands, and coyotes are definitely an animal that is in our community, as well as deers. And so every once in a while, or multiple times actually, I've seen deers on campus. I'm sure many of you have. But the other day, I also noticed a coyote that was actually pretty large running through the campus about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I did send that picture to the group, and I wanted you guys to know we do have almost every time I drive through campus or drop my kids off at school, I do see pedestrians walking through campus. So I just think everyone just be aware that there are coyotes as well. Okay. All right. So any other updates? Any other questions? CEC meeting is Monday. What time was it again, Trustee Thomas? 7. Is it 7?
Yes.
Okay, great. So Monday, 7 p.m. will be streamed on YouTube. Any other community reports? Excuse me, committee reports? No? All right. We will move forward to the next item on our agenda, which is item B4, Board President's Update or Report. That is me. So I again want to thank Lee F. Jackson School principal and staff for coming out this evening and for presenting to the Board of Education. Very thorough, very helpful, and we appreciate your hard work, as well as all the rest of the staff that did not present tonight, but that may be watching from home. I wanted to remind everyone that we have a retreat scheduled for December 18th, 2021. I did want to take the time to check with the board. The time that we all agreed on was from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We did talk about the structure of our retreat, which last time we did a 2-hour discussion that was closed session, and then we came out and did a 1-hour open session. I wanted to check with board members, see if you guys still want to do that or not, or would you like to have a 3-hour closed session or some other mix of the sort. Does any trustee want to go first? Let me know your opinion on this. If not, I'll just call your names. Great, we'll start with Trustee Ballin.
I will just say that I anticipate that this conversation might take longer than we expect, so I would suggest planning on 3 hours of closed session, and if we end up finishing early, great.
Okay. So you don't want to do the 2-hour, 1-hour thing that we did before? Okay.
I anticipate we'll run over the 2 hours, and that wouldn't be fair to the public that might show up for a potentially public session.
Okay.
And I think we need to finish the business that we're doing in the closed session.
Okay. Trustee Thomas?
What exactly are we doing at the retreat again?
So the retreat is going to be focused on board relations as well as training with the board with regards to communication and protocols. And so like what we did last time for 2 hours with Dr. Coles from BOCES, he will be there again as our facilitator. And then last time we did 2 hours of that, and then we stopped and we did 1 hour where Dr. Iverson presented to us the data that she had received from talking with us individually. And so Trustee Valen, I just asked about if we want to do that again or something similar. Trustee Valen believes that it's going to take longer than the 2 hours to do communication and protocols. And I'm just wondering where you stand on that.
I will agree with my counterpart.
Okay. And Trustee Dragic?
I agree as well.
Okay.
3 hours closed session.
3-hour closed session. And Trustee Warner?
I want to hear the data from the superintendent. So if we want to put that at the front end instead of the back end, and then we can go as long as we want in the closed session part, I would do it that way.
So you want 1 hour of data on, and what would that data be this time?
I think last time it was about the board, and you've gone and had your tour of various groups within the student body, the teachers, the community, and you were going to come back and tell us what you learned, right?
Yes. Yes, I was. I was going to come back and share that with you. I do have those scheduled. I'm going to be meeting with the student voice sessions on the 22nd on every grade level at the high school, and then I have some community forums that I set up the last 2 weeks of November and the first week of December. So I will come back prepared. I thought that presentation though was going to be at the board meeting. Do you want it at the retreat?
Tracy?
Well, we're taking a poll now to see the majority of the board will want. So I did hear 1, 2, 3 trustees want to just focus on some communication and protocols for 3 hours, and 1 trustee does want that at the retreat, it sounds like. So
may I add
yes.
that I talked to Dr. Coles today, and he and I beyond planning for the retreat, and he's under the impression, so this is good clarity, that for the 3 hours, this is one focus. So.
Okay.
Okay, I can accede to that as long as we can put it in a different venue. Great, I don't want to try and do both.
Okay, Trustee Pineda in Washington?
Yeah, I'm fine with the majority.
Okay. Trustee
3 hours.
3 hours. Okay, great. So then, Dr. Iverson, if you could put that into a board meeting, or even if we have some sort of special meeting, to let us know what data you received. I do want to ask you, and this was actually asked by a community member to me earlier today, are you going to be able to do a Spanish speaking parent learning and listening meeting?
I don't have anyone with me who's interpreting, so if that's the question, I can try to look into that. But
Okay.
all the others I've held, no, but it would have to be someone who can translate while I'm talking, as you see it, forms and so forth.
Okay. All right, so I guess can you look into that? Let us know if you're able to outreach to, and I don't know what the feedback will be, but if you're able to outreach to the Spanish-speaking parents, that was specifically asked of me today. Okay, so we'll move forward. Just for clarity, our retreat's going to be December 18th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., and it is going to be closed, and we are going to work on board communication, protocols, and board relations within the board, the 8 of us. Okay. Next, I wanted to thank everyone for celebrating their Veterans Day this past Thursday. I want to thank the veterans that we have that have served our country, that live in our district, that work in our district, because we have veterans that work in our district. I saw and heard from Dr. Iverson and saw some social media posts about some of our veterans actually talking to our students about their service, and our students seem to really like that information. So I just wanted to thank the veterans here in our community in Hartsdale and Fairview that have served our country. So thank you for that. Lastly, hearing the Lee F. Jackson report and talking about our students and SEL makes me think of the mind and body connection with our students and how returning to school, trying to move forward and have a kind of, I don't want to say post-COVID because we're still in the middle of COVID, but we all have these masks on, but returning to some normalcy in education or trying to. I think about the sports program that we have up at the middle high school and the fall sports, and we had a lot of students return to school that may not have wanted to return to school, may have had some social anxiety, some school phobia, and we have had to provide several different services, but some of the kids that made it into school were able to integrate into school a little bit better with their sports program, really socializing a little bit more. And I just want to acknowledge the fall sports that we did have this past year. We had cross country for boys and girls. We had football. We had soccer for both boys and girls. We had girls swim. We have girls tennis, and we had girls volleyball. And all the children were encouraged to play sports. We had sports from 7th through 12th grade, and we just started our winter sports. And so connecting the mind and the body, the mind being dealt with in the classroom and getting our academics back on track, but also our bodies with moving around, not being on the couch, on the virtual, on the phone, on the computer, in front of the television, but actually getting up and doing a sport and interacting with your peers. So I just want to thank our students and our families that participated in our sports and our coaches and our athletic department for offering that for our students. So we're going to move forward through our agenda. And next we have B5, which is approval of agenda items, section C through H. First up, we have our instructional personnel items. And I'm going to look for a motion from someone to accept those items.
I move that we approve the instructional personnel items presented to the board for approval this evening.
I second.
It's been properly moved and second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Let's move on to D, personnel non-instructional items. Is there a
I move that we
motion?
approve the non-instructional personnel items presented to the board for approval this evening.
I second.
It's been properly moved and second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Section E, board action items. Can I get a motion?
I move that we approve the board action items presented to the board for approval this evening.
I second.
It's been properly moved and second. Are there any discussions?
Sure.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Okay, Trustee Warner.
Item E2, board policy. We've recently received some feedback from the public with a concern that the Board of Education Code of Ethics doesn't properly correspond to some state requirements. Those particular requirements are covered in a separate policy, 6110, which talks about gifts, confidential information, conflicts of interest, representing matters before the district, and disclosure of interest in contract resolutions. Basically, all the things the person is concerned about. They're in a different policy than we have this attachment for. And I would propose that in order to prevent confusion, that we rename the thing Code of Conduct instead of Code of Ethics, and that way there won't be a tendency to point at the wrong thing. What do other people think about this?
Other trustees? Trustee Pineda? Is your mic on?
Thank you. So my comment on that is, as part of the governance and policy committee's purview this year, the plan was actually to evaluate that exact issue because we do have a little bit of duplication, right? The policy 1110E is basically almost like an appendix that talks about specifically the code of conduct that each one of us board members, our localized code of conduct that we've agreed on how we will, how we will execute our positions as board trustees, and we signed that at the beginning of this year. That does dovetail very well with policy 6110. So the goal was to approve this as it is now, and then take this up as part of the governance and policy committee's discussions this year to figure out how to meld the two together. And the goal to move this policy forward, as we've talked about a few meetings already, was just to get it formalized that this code of ethics that we had developed on our own, this appendix, would be something that we did annually at the reorg meeting to ensure that any new board members or even our existing board members are reminded every year of why we're doing what we're doing and how we agree to conduct ourselves. So I'm not opposed to changing the verbiage from code of ethics to code of conduct, but again, it's something we were planning on addressing anyway. So what I don't want to do is add a lot more confusion. We've already read the policy, I think, twice in previous meetings, if I recall correctly. So I would say let's just move forward with the way it is, and then we have that governance and policy committee evaluated during their regular operations this year and come up with a recommendation.
And I agree with Trustee Pineda with the logic that the governance committee already have put in place to move forward with what we have and allow the committee to do what needs to be done.
Thank you, Trustee Washington, Pineda, and Warner. Are there any other trustees that have feedback, questions, comments? No? Okay. And is there any other discussions regarding board action items? No? Okay, it's been a motion on the floor. Can I have all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next, we have section F, finance items. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the finance items presented to the board for approval this evening.
I second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Section G, business items. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the business items presented to the board for approval this evening.
I second.
It's been properly moved in second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next and last for the consent agenda, we have section H, pupil personnel services items. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the pupil personal services items presented to the board for approval this evening.
I second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next, we have section I, closing items. I-1 is our district-wide school safety plan. Is there any discussion regarding our school safety plan? Yes. Trustee
Sure.
Moore.
So what we have posted on the website currently is the draft of last year's school safety plan. We actually went to the extent of having a public hearing on it. I think Katie McGee had some comments. I had some comments that were in written form. I don't know if the administration has seen anything beyond the draft that's posted on the website. Does anybody have anything newer than that? Okay, so what needs to happen is, obviously things got a little rough towards the end of last year. We need to I believe tonight we just passed a resolution to make sure that Lisa Raymond is taking on the Jill Post role, that traditionally the person who's the emergency coordinator also tends to run the committee that updates these things. Traditionally, there are also 2 board members on the committee. Chris Vallon is willing to serve. I'm willing to serve. I don't know if anybody else is willing to serve, but there's basically a committee that gets together that's supposed to have a wide variety of stakeholders in it, including parent organizations and administrators and various members of the school district. We currently have, I think, just the principals, and I think the principals have done a good job. I believe they put together the plans for the individual buildings, but not for the district as a whole. So what needs to happen, I think, if you think that it's a large enough undertaking where you have too many other irons in the fire, you can get a safety coordinator to help you out, a professional to do a little bit of work with you, and I guess that's a Lisa call on whether we want to do that. We need to figure out if any board members want to volunteer for the district-wide safety committee, and then we go ahead and have a public hearing and have some input and update everything in the plan.
I hear that Trustee Werner and Valen are volunteering. Are there any other trustees that would like to serve on the district-wide school safety plan? I see no one else, so it looks like you two will win that position, Trustee Werner and Trustee Valen. And for full transparency, I understand this plan every year should be done by October 1st. Am I accurate with that?
Correct.
Okay, so we are a tad bit behind, although in previous years we were also not done by October 1st.
So
So we're
like
actually
February when we're having a
earlier than
yes,
previous years.
right.
So next year we'll be on time, right? So great.
So we'll have to do this again next year.
That's right.
For October 1.
Right, so maybe at the end of the school
Yes.
year, moving into the summer, we can start the process, and then we'll be done by October 1st. Okay, Trustee Valen, did you raise your hand? No. No? Okay. Great, all right, so let's continue moving forward. Is there any new business? Yes, Trustee Pineda.
So I have 2 things to talk about.
Is your mic working?
All right, I have 2 things this evening. The first one is it's been brought to my attention that in some of the in the elementary schools, we don't have children-sized surgical masks. So I'm curious if we can look into if it's possible to get some of those, because I know for a fact that a lot of the kids either their mask becomes soiled or they forget them, and then we hand out the replacements for the day, but they're not fitting them properly. So if we can look into that, that'd be great. And the second thing is I just want to know if there's an update on their previous request to tape the plexiglass dividers, the edges, to minimize the cuts to the children. Do we have a status update on that? Thank you.
Yes, that I will get an update this Friday, but yes, that was sent to the facilities department, and it would help if we knew, because they're just walking around checking, if we knew where this is concentrated as well. Is there a particular school where this was cited? Because I've been in many of the buildings where there is tape, so where are these hot spots so we can ensure that?
The last I heard, it's been a while already, but the last I heard, it was really concentrated in the elementary schools, because that's where, yeah, but this was a while back, so I don't know if it still exists, so I'm asking for an update. But it was basically in the elementary schools, the children, you know, they're not as cognizant of dimensional space and all that, and they're kind of cutting themselves with these dividers.
So I have them walking around checking and spot checking, so that helps, but I'll give you an update Friday and see where we are with that. At least if we can talk to Mike Falcone, see where he is on this.
Okay, Trustee Pineda, was there a second?
I did both.
Oh, you did both? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm out on that one. Okay, I'm sorry. Is there anyone else that has any new business? Trustee Washington.
Okay, first and foremost, I wanted to just give a shout out to the Greenberg White Plains NAACP for awarding me the Educational Innovation Award. And I wanted the trustees to know that I did shout you out as the Board of Education, thanking you for partnering with me in serving Greenberg. I did give the information to the president because I just wanted you to know that because of the work that we're doing, we're being recognized. They didn't recognize me, but it was the work that we're doing here in Greenberg. So I wanted my board members to know that. Number two, I also wanted to thank Dr. Iverson and Lisa Raymond for the after-school buses that are taking place at Woodlands Middle High School. I just have another question in reference to sports. You don't have to answer that today, but will there be a bus for students that are in sports like basketball? And I'm not saying for spectators. I'm really saying for the ones participating in the actual games, like the basketball games and things that are coming up. Are we considering having a bus for students that are actually participating in our sports programs? So that's something, I don't know if you have an answer. If you don't, you can comment.
We can answer that now.
Yes. After practice, but then also like if there's a game. You know, so sometimes they have the basketball game, and will there be a bus for those students?
Do you mean the bus to take them home?
Yes, a bus to
Washington?
take them home.
Okay.
I'm not talking about the spectators. I'm talking about the actual the sport participants.
Okay, by history, so that's a great question. So just for clarity, trustee, Dr. Iverson, by history, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Washington, what Ms. Washington's referring to is, say we have a game and we have it here, or we go somewhere else, that game may not end right at 6:30.
Right.
They may go to, I don't know, another district, play a game, get the bus back here. Trustee Washington, I think, is saying, when they're here, how will they then get home? Is there going to be a
No, I'm
bus?
clear on what she's asking.
Yeah, oh, okay. I wanted to clarify.
That's
Thank
okay.
you.
So yes, I will check into that because you're right. Right now, we are going to be providing buses at the regular 4:30 time, the 6:30 time when they're leaving practice. But that's a very good point. At the game leaving, that's another round that we would need to provide buses for. So I will be talking to Frank about that. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. And I do want to say thank you to your detail on the COVID testing for students. Personally, my child has received it, so I thank you. And I see that there is a system that you put in place, so I just wanted to thank you for hearing us and things actually changing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I was glad you brought that to my attention. We were able to fix that right away.
And wonderful. Anyone else have any new business? I did have a few items too. I was going to mention buses. I'll cross that out. I brought up I was going to bring up the testing. I did get your email. You did send out to parents, so I don't know if the community is aware that there was a survey sent out to parents for.
That survey is to get an idea from parents, their interest in Greenberg serving as a vaccination pop-up clinic. So now we have the testing in place. We do that weekly. The next piece now is Westchester County Department of Health is now trying to survey school districts to see how many will be interested in a vaccination pop-up clinic being on your campus. This survey is just to get numbers to see if there's an interest in Greenberg. So that's the first phase. Once that survey ends this Friday, we turn those numbers in. They will contact me. I've already submitted the name that we are interested. Once they get our numbers and if they're not, we won't serve, they won't give us one for 40 kids. The numbers have to be worth the time because there's a lot of equipment. They will come on campus and administer these vaccines, because it's medical and it's official. So they get our numbers and then they will call me and let us know if we've been selected to do that. So we're waiting on the survey. I'm going to encourage parents, if you're interested, to just turn in the survey at this point. There's no commitment. You don't have to submit. Do this later if you change your mind. But if you're just thinking you may be interested in having your child vaccinated here doing a pop-up clinic, just turn it in and give us your interest there. I do know we don't have a lot of information on how it will be administered, other than it will be administered by the lab, not our staff here. They will be by appointment only, and students will have to be accompanied by their parents. It's just like a doctor's appointment. and they will be in the evening, starting, say, right after school. They're not during the day. So they're not coming on the campus during that time. So there are 2 districts so far who are ahead of the curve and have started, and this is the feedback we heard about on Monday on my superintendent call. So more to come. Just right now, if you're interested, just turn that in. And this is vaccinations now for students 5 through 11. And it's the Pfizer 2-dose vaccine, pediatric version.
Thank you so much, Dr. Iverson. And lastly, I'm going to ask you again, I'm sorry, to clarify for the COVID testing. I know Ms. Washington brought that up. Opting in and opting out. Parents can still opt in to get testing, correct? And if, say, a student or a parent had opted their child in and the child doesn't like doing the testing, how do they opt out?
They just don't pick up the test. They can tell us it's voluntary. We don't have, every week, the same kids get a test too. They don't all pick it up. Some kids don't return it. They can opt in and out at any time. So if a parent decides they don't want their child to do it, they can just let Lisa's offices orchestrating that list. We can just simply take them off. If they want to get it starting Monday, I think we probably could get it to them, probably too late for next week. And by the way, we will not be doing COVID testing the week of November 22nd because of the short week. We'll be leaving that Wednesday, so no testing on that Monday, and we'll resume on November 29th. But at any time, you can opt in. Just contact Lisa Raymond's office or contact a teacher or administrator who can contact Lisa Raymond's office, and they will take it from there.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Iverson. And hearing no other new business items, I'm going to move to the final item on our agenda, which is adjournment. Can I get a motion?
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
I second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned at 10:33 p.m. Thank you.
I did see a deer this morning, right when I was going home. But I was right there. I'm just in the main road. Yeah. And they don't see well. Those deer don't see at all. They run right in front of